Okay, yeah, I want to continue with some of the other, um, um, verbal type of, I don't know if I would really call it a documentary. I mean, if there's like an issue of like, actually, uh, there goes the importing and exporting issue, whether that's the issue really truthfully so, or some issue of commerce. Yeah, anyway, so like, I was referring to, I-10 as being some issues that would reflect Mount Rushmore, the forefathers of the nation, and I-10 being binary numbers, and knowing that sequence and characterization and, um, as far as like programming and computer science and computer programming, binary numbers normally use four characters and sequencing characters and sets of four to actually identify truthfully one letter. How true it is about the punctuation, I'm truthfully not sure, and if I really need to be, well then, if it matters beyond like me like saying this right now, well then, when it does, well then it will. But until then, anyway, yeah. So as far as like the letters and like the normal characterization and sequencing, like the zeros or ones, one and zeros, or reference to what the equator means in the sense of like uh, um, latitude. Um, and if there's like the issue of like the Robert Half. I mean, really, so seriously, so for real, right? So I mean, as far as like the representation of the forefathers of the nation, equating to issues, whether that would equate to the FBI minus CIA equal 4, the D on the Washington D.C. issue, or other things about the alphanumerics and all that good stuff. So anyway, like a lot of stuff was I had been considering representing what for. Um, Characters in sequencing characterization, truthfully, in sets of four, that really does involve the binary numbers. Although with like Interstate I-10, from Los Angeles all the way to Florida, seems to be like the issue of like whether the equators of latitude is the issue with I-10, um, or the meaning of what above and below I-10 in North America, and specifically even more so in the Houston area, or like all the way to Los Angeles, and likewise to the east of like in Florida. But anyway, yeah. So like I was thinking about that in that way, because normally it's automatically something in my mind that would reflect automatically the geographics involving Pearland and like Highway 35, or scale model margin ratios, not necessarily the legend on the map, although it gives like a comparable conversion of what distance means by comparison of like a scale. If that's the issue with like Highway 35 in Pearland as compared to like I-35 in Austin, I mean, really seriously, or County Road 45 in Angleton, Texas, likewise, as well as Pearland 35 going all the way to Angleton, as well as County Road 45, and like I-45, more specifically on the south side of the Gulf Freeway. Uh, oh, and there's something really I want to bring up since I'm thinking about the Gulf and the Gulf Freeway. I had read a book, uh, Turbulent Waters, as a matter of fact. I mean, in the word intercontinental, I mean, it's so repeatedly. I mean, it's like when I was reading, it's kind of like, all right, already, I mean, it was like continually nonstop throughout the entire book of the Turbulent Waters, but it's like really good. I mean, I really liked it. I mean, it's like one of the better books I liked, although the word intercontinental was like really used considerably, I mean, far beyond really. I mean, it's like, okay already, but in any case, maybe that's the whole entire point. Anyway, or like the area code 212 in New York, or the issue of like continental and continental being the 212, and the difference of the area code, or some alphanumerics of like the area code of New York, or between like the area code of like Los Angeles 213, and what that means really to like a Highway 101, or like a division, or Christian, in the sense of what English means to Christianity. Likewise, yes, yes indeed. And Houston being 112 and 101 equating to like 213 in Los Angeles, or like Galveston County, other factors involving that. Z71 thing, okay, and some like manufacturer Chevrolet and Silverado and all that good stuff. Not limited to, although I've looked at the Camaro IROC Z28 thing too as well. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, all that it's like something on my mind as far as like computer science. I mean, really, truthfully, when computer science is looked at, it's only like binary numbers, normally suggesting, uh, you know, that truthfully beyond the 0 and 1, 1 and 0, or a combination of the four, like going far beyond, the 0 and 1 and 1 and 4. I mean, seriously, I mean, it goes way far beyond just the normal, computer science that's like, at an associate's degree. And truthfully, anything that I've seen and how true it is and what that means, so it's kind of like I have referred to like certain issues of like whether if a tariff is actually the issue of like a local area network. You've heard the national anthem and the home, and the land of the free, home of the brave issue. Well, if that's really some issue of like what annotation means or citing, quoting, if you want to call it the reference between annotation or exponential exponential quotient and the Y2K, I mean, had more significance towards 1998 and 1999, even more so in the new millennium of the year 2000, Y2K. But it seems to be like an issue, truthfully, of whether the Roe v. Wade. Okay, I mean, my name is Wade. Anyway, I heard all about it. And all the information about abortion before the actual birth, about the Roe v. Wade issue. Although the issue of like Y2K is like when it's spelled and pronounced in combination with alphanumerics by numerical as well as like alphanumerical. I mean, it's like a 94 issue. Okay. Likewise with adoption and abortion. I mean, it's phenomenally like not funny to me. And something about the U.S. dollar reflecting some symbolic representation of like the spirit of adoption being some kind of like telepathic mediation somewhere in between of communication. I mean, you can find it like in the national security issue, and ultimately it does lead to that book, truthfully so. Not the only one about the telekinesis, telekinetics, as well as like telepathic communication and all that stuff with national security and all that stuff. Ultimately it gets to that book, yeah. Psychic War, America's Foremost Psychic Spy, and the cover up the CIA's top secret Stargate program. Well, all that's great, yeah. Ultimately, it gets to like something like, truthfully, in my mind specifically, truthfully, I mean, I was born like in 1964, and if it's the issue of like for Purple Mountain's majesty above the fruited plain issue, like here in Pearland, Texas, or what the purple in 88 means to like Oldsmobile Delta 88 or the Delta Force and all that good stuff, or what they are, FBI psychology, minus RCA equating to 140, Pearland, Texas, and Holy Miracles and all that good stuff. Okay, and I can go on and on about, the alphanumerics and serious stuff. Anyway, so like back to like the I-10 issue and like alphanumerics of like 131, whether like a taxation code or taxation code 10 equate to like the issue between like an expenditure itemization and taxation code 10 with the number 10. Although, the number 10 spelled out in TEN is like 39 and like an angel issue. And if that's really the only point, truthfully, about interstate I-10, is reflecting, computer science and like computer programming in that way and manner. I've studied in linguistics, I mean, with alphanumerics and geographics, bibliography, law, codes, referencing, cross-referencing, trying to, find, because truthfully, I'd mentioned previously in some of the other videos, like normally, if anyone would like notice what a local area network means, and maybe even an educational facility, specifically for paralegal, really even the accusation of whether, that you've probably heard it before on TV, if you can't afford an attorney, want to be provided for you, or the issue of like the state of grace, if that's really included as the issue of state of grace, like the American Bar Association. I mean, I don't really, when I heard the word association, it like really got serious. I mean, association, like associate's degree. Are you kidding me? The association gives a reference as to what seems to be like a degree graduate alumni, not really an associate's degree, in need of higher education, or the excuse of a manufactured issue of like whether the state of grace is thoroughly provided. I mean, really, I mean, if you can't afford an international, like, legal law firm, like a television to be provided for you, if you can, like, figure out, what headquarter, like, known to mankind on the face of the earth to speak English. Yeah, really, okay. So anyway, so I was, like, getting into the issue of, like, a taxation code. Taxation code 10 being, like, 141. Or a USA maneuver, or, like, itemization, expenditure being, like, 141. And what that means in my mind, somehow, in networking, of, like, whether or not the taxation code only reflects what a registered charity might not seem to be, the distinguishing difference of where the word is at, such as comparable reference to, whether even if the tax form normally provided only suggests whether a tax credit is even considered an annuity or like a constitutional law of like whether professional witnesses representing representative or the accusation of like some contributive factor as a gift in the form of like credit or what that means as a credit as compared to deduction, when in fact it's really like truthfully not supposed to be the both at the same time. But truthfully, I mean at this point really what I'm talking about is really how could it not be at this point really. So anyway, it's kind of like I mean is that like the issue of like a service being provided by the Internal Revenue Service? If so, I mean is that really truthfully the issue of whether what a degree means at any level, whether the deduction is really beyond the domicile halo venue of a toilet, and I mean seriously, I mean if it really ultimately gets to what taxation code 10 means in the alphanumerics of whether does it sound like an expenditure, and if it's the only issue of like an expenditure has like the degreed or even a non-degreed experience that really I'm sure that any degree that's like but participated in a circuit whatever circuit like I said before. But truthfully, I mean I mean really there's a lot about it that really I mean I mean if there's only an easement in the sense of like what a third party issue is or intellectual, and if you want to combine issue of like integration, like normally that might be considered as not normal perception of what law is, or normally identifying only a segregated version of maybe when law is only used, not really using it all, or like really being accused of like knowing how to use it all, or the accusation of even having a need. And if there's not the accusation of having a need, I mean like really, why isn't there? I mean I mean for real, okay, I mean, seriously. So I mean I mean if there's not a need, is it that like someone is thoroughly not using everything to their own advantage to be all you can be beyond the reserve? It's not necessarily the Army Reserve, but it's like every reserve and what that means. And in religion, I don't really prefer to choose the word purgatory based upon the description, but I mentioned if there's like a waiting period or what a cumulative interest-bearing accountability means, or whether the actual value of a reserve is actually considered active or inactive. And I mean, is it going to like gain interest-bearing accountability, or even the cost of living per se, whether it's active or inactive, or is that like considered a use it or lose it attitude, or practice makes perfect, or is it active or inactive, or is it like deportation like of a religious issue of like purgatory, or is it like just like a third party escrow issue of like a intellectual passing if you want to call it the designation as a non-negotiable, non-transferable, like whenever that is like decided to be what that means. I mean, anyway, so anyway, I'm going to stop right here right now. Yeah, I got to take a break. Yeah, it's that time. I got to take a break. All right.